Yeah, so I'm sure, well, I hope other people will be joining us. We usually have a pretty good crowd. Um,
7 people so far.
yeah, it should get up there pretty good. We get lucky. We usually have between 15 and 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
quite a few.
it's a lot of fun. Um, so Ryan, I was thinking about you today since you're in construction as well. Um, but you seem to do new construction and a lot of different things than I do. I'm mostly just residential remodeling of existing spaces, you know. Um, did I hear?
Same thing.
I
I'm
think,
sorry, I didn't catch that as part of your question.
oh yeah, I was just, your Wi-Fi's a little bit spotty.
Yeah, might be this portion of the house.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, did I hear somewhere that you built a tiny house for yourself?
Yes, that's exactly what I did. I did build my tiny house. That was that was actually a 1 week project.
Oh, really?
So
Just
because I go fishing, it was a scramble to get done kind of thing. Because I go fishing in Alaska pretty well every year. It's an annual thing. 2 months a year I'm up there, June and July.
mhm.
I was getting really sick of bouncing around from apartment to apartment and getting storage units for all my stuff, or paying for the apartment for 2 months rent that I wasn't even there.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just it was hurting me. So I figured, well, I'm going to. My parents were okay with it, so I'm going to build a storage unit behind their garage on their property. So I go ahead and I do that. I build a 12 by 16, just a little lean-to roof, 10 foot high on one side, 8 foot on the other side, on six caissons, 2 by 6 flooring, for floor joists and everything. Pretty easy build. I got back from Alaska. Let's see, what did I do? I skinned it with plywood. I left the inside just studs. All I did was actually skin the roof. I
Hmm.
didn't actually I put corrugated roofing on since then, but I only skinned it for the summer, just for the 2 months when I was up there, because like I said, it was only going to be a storage unit. So then I come back and it's like I said, it's a 12 by 16. So I come back and I see this thing and I see a place to live. so I talked my parents into it, and yeah, I've been doing it here since. Since then I have yet to do the flooring, so I still have a plywood floor, but I have insulated the walls, the ceiling, drywalled everything, done all the painting. I have ran the electrical, did a little bit of plumbing, so I have a kitchenette now. So that's pretty nice. Only have a microwave and an air fryer, but it's good enough for me and my son. Quite honestly, it works out really well for us.
That's awesome. And so is it all floor space? Did you put like a loft bed or anything like that kind of thing in it?
There is my bed is it's kind of cantilevered off the wall, if you would.
Hmm.
There's actually a small storage box below it, and then on top of my bed is my daughter's bed. She's actually in Arizona now, but yeah, I did put a bunk bed up there, and then below the bunk bed. So my bed's a queen. I put a twin up on the bunk bed, and below the bunk bed, I made my closet. Since I don't need a super whole lot of room for all my clothes, I don't need an entire queen for myself, and the clothes hang above the bed. It gives me it's a good use of space.
Oh, nice.
And living on a boat the other 2 months of the year, I kind of know how to use that space.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, I don't
I am
know.
I'm an efficiencyaholic, I like to say.
Sounds awesome. It sounds like you guys have been working hard. We, uh, I've been posting stuff on our channel because we had at our house, we have a detached single car garage that I just had all my tools in all these years. And it had a bad roof and stuff, and it leaked. And so there was one wall that was really deteriorated. So we were trying to go back and forth. Should we tear it down and rebuild it or try to save it? And we ended up trying to save it. It's 12 by 18 it has a pitched roof, and we were going to turn it into a craft room for Cynthia. And along the way, it's kind of progressed. Now it has a full bathroom in it, and we're going to be picking up one of those. We're, we're going to pick up because it's far from our septic. We're going to use one of those sewer or septic macerating tubs. Have you seen those? It's like a barrel.
It sounds like a stump,
Yeah,
like a sump that kind of breaks things up and pushes it around.
right. It's like a 25-gallon drum, and it has a basically a sump pump in it, but the sump pump is heavy duty to be able to chew stuff up, and it can pump up to just 65 head feet of pressure. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's going to be pumping from behind the garage into the sewer lines of the house. So we'll be posting videos and stuff on that. It's the first time I've ever used one of those, but they seem to work really well. So we'll see.
That's interesting. Does the plumbing of the house, I'm assuming then the plumbing of the house still needs to be able to accept another toilet,
Yes.
given the math, like what is it? 4-inch lines can take up to 5 toilets or something like that. I don't remember the math at all. That might be completely wrong, but it's something like that. There's a whole mathematic formula to it.
Yeah, the plumbing, the existing plumbing for the house, because we are on septic also. So that was, you know, the planning department said they didn't have an issue with us adding a bathroom, but if we add a bedroom, it was going to affect the, I guess, the body count, right, for the septic because it was a fairly small tank. And with more bedrooms, more people can live in the house, but with more bathrooms, that's not necessarily the case. So it was kind of weird, but that's what yeah, that's what they are doing. So yeah, you might want to check it out. We had to reframe the whole garage because it was, tilted over about 3/4 of an inch over all these years. So we reframed
Oh,
the
wow.
whole inside. Yeah, the whole inside was reframed and level and plumb and as straight as we could make it. But it's coming out pretty good.
So 3/4 of an inch. Did it not have any sheathing or the diagonal let boards? That's what they're called.
Yeah, when it
Because
was
actually,
when it was originally built, it was framed, and then the exterior had 1x6 um, boards all around the exterior. But over the years, because it was built in the 40s, so over the years it kind of just swayed a little bit. And so what I did was once we reframed it, I added inside. I added 1/2 inch OSB on all 4 walls to give it some shear before we put the sheetrock in.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll say it's got to be safe for the boss is going to be in there messing around, so got to make it safe for her.
Yeah, we did that when I was in Arkansas framing for my buddy. We did sheathing all over his house, inside walls, outside walls, just everywhere. Just strengthen that thing up. Non sequitur, the let board, that's what that diagonal board is called, let board. And
Okay.
reason being, our English has changed, and the word let used to mean to disallow.
Mm.
So like there's a verse in the Bible that says let your brother sin or something like that, and it actually means like disallow him from sinning.
Oh,
But it totally sounds bass backwards from the way we say it now.
yeah. Yeah, I almost went with the Simpson metal strapping on the inside, but then I just got to thinking it was a little bit safer to do the OSB, and it wasn't. I mean, a little bit of difference with electrical, right? Setting your boxes so they're
Oh yeah.
an inch out and things like that. So it's working out. I have a little sub panel in there we're going to run a main line from our existing main panel to it. So it's going to be more comfortable than the house. It's all insulated and
Yeah.
stuff. The house doesn't even have insulation, but that will. So
Yeah, that reminds me. I still need to insulate my floor. My floor, and I have barn doors in there. So one of them I insulated, the one that I actually use. The other not, which I don't really have too much big stuff in a tiny house. But like I
mhm.
said, it was mainly for storage. So it was going to be my reloading station, so I can just open the doors wide open, get all the air in there that I wanted. Yeah, I need to insulate the floor of that thing, and actually, I've got quite a bit of work to do. So the way that I built it was I put the caissons on the very outside.
Hmm.
So there's 4x6 sitting on top of the caissons, and then the joists are because I had a height requirement, I had to stay below. I had to
Hmm.
stay really, really short. So I put the 2x6 joist, flooring joist, in between the 4x6
Hmm.
girder, if you would. And yeah, it's smiling at me. So there's a big negative crown, if you would. There's a deflection. That's what it's called. There's deflection in the floor. So I'm going to go down below and reinforce that. And before I do that, I need to go to all the corners and make sure that's all nice and level across each way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I need to level off those 6 caissons, and then I can level off the center of the floor. Then everything's going to be nice. Then I'll do my
Yeah.
actual flooring.
So you're high enough that you have room to crawl under there and insulate and everything?
I do. I've got about 12 inches on one side and 18 on the other.
Okay.
So I can GI Joe it a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I think what I'm going to do though is just pull up the center. It's one full sheet and then 2 halves, which kind of sucks. I didn't glue them either, so I didn't really. I don't know. I wasn't thinking glue. I was just thinking, just get it done.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a 1 week project before I was flying up to Alaska. So I should be able to no ring shank nails, anything like that, just 8-penny sinkers. So I should be able to knock that stuff back out and then just have full access to the deck right there.
Yeah. Nice. I find myself using,
Straddle joist, yeah.
yeah, I find myself using screws more and more often because I always forget something. So it's easier to unscrew it.
Yeah, on this deck job that I'm doing right now, I'm using as many nails as I can just because it is cheaper. But yeah, I'm using a lot of screws too.
Yeah.
Those coated screws, the real inexpensive ones.
Yeah. Are they, what are they called? Like general construction screws or something? They're like
The
yellow
ones I
zinc.
have are, yeah, deck coated or something like that. I don't
Okay.
remember the brand.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it looks like we got some more people in here with us. Hi, everybody. Um, most of you have been here before, and most of you know Ryan, all-nighter hider. He decided to jump in with us tonight. Um, hi, Tony. I think you're new, right? Have we seen you here before?
Hey, how's it going? No, I haven't been in one of these groups yet. Just checking it out.
Oh, cool. Um, where are you at, and what kind of investing are you doing?
I'm in Baltimore City, Maryland. At the moment, I'm doing a house hack and also Section 8
Okay,
and multifamily.
great. Chester's in your area. He'll probably be jumping in here too. It's great to have you. And most everybody else has been here before, but usually these are pretty informal. If you have any questions about anything we're talking about or any issues that you need some other opinions on, you're welcome to just jump in and let's talk about it. And also you can jump in and out, as you like. We sometimes usually go a long, long time, but don't feel like you have to stay the whole time. So
All
just
right, great.
let you know that. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and again, most everybody knows our story, but my wife and I are on our second journey with real estate investing because the first time we tried it, it didn't go very well. That was back in 07 and went through bankruptcy and everything in 2010 and started re-educating ourselves. So found Zuber and everybody in the community. So we've been investing since 2021 and it's going a lot better this time. And that's why we ended up starting the channel too, the Old Guy REI channel, because we wanted to document everything that we were experiencing this time around, sharing mistakes and lessons and things like that to hopefully help everybody else avoid it. I'm a contractor, been a general contractor for 34 years, residential remodeling. We're in California too, by the way, and we're investing in the Midwest, Missouri and Illinois and Indiana, like that. So I think you'll find a nice variety of the different types of investing and levels of experience in the group. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's great to have everybody here. And Ryan is also in construction too, Ryan Hyder.
Yeah, I may have some questions for you guys.
Yeah,
like coming up soon.
Yeah, anytime. How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody else got any questions to start us off with?
Kind of do.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, how's it going? I am getting close to the point where my move is almost done. I'm getting ready to rent out the whole place. So I wondered if anybody had any just little extra tidbits here or there to add to a lease that you found to be beneficial. I know a couple of weeks ago someone had mentioned something about having to maintain the HVAC filters. And then I believe somebody else mentioned something charging, I think it was $100 every time there's had to send like a maintenance guy out there just to try to keep minor stuff minor. And just anything else like that anybody else have would be good that I can add to the lease because it's getting close to when I'll need it.
For me, probably one of the questions would be if you're going to allow pets and if you have provisions in there for that. Are you thinking you will allow animals?
I don't know. I know people in that neighborhood might, so I gotta think about that. I might lean towards it just because I think people would probably appreciate it.
Yeah, it seems to open up a few more doors that way.
It does. We usually do a $500 deposit, a non-refundable deposit on pets, but they have to be under a certain weight limit. And that is full grown, not we were doing like 40, but that could be a pretty big dog. So we do 20 now. And it seems to keep those monster dogs out, which I don't have a problem with any kind of dog except the bigger ones seem to make a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also with the pets, someone in the group had, well, and we weren't sure if it was a real case or not, but somebody had moved in and then claimed that they had a severe allergic reaction because the previous tenant had a dog or something in the unit. And we weren't sure, even she wasn't sure if they were just trying to get out of the lease quickly for some other reason, but they had only been in there for a month or two.
That's what that sounded like to me, was they were just trying to get out of the lease.
Yeah, I think you were there, huh?
Yeah, we always put pet friendly on pets allowed, but we make sure that when we talk to them that they know that, and if they get a pet while they're there, there's a clause in there about has to be paid within 10 days, or I forget the amount that we put in there, that they get charged per day that the pet is in the house that we didn't know about. I mean, the neighbor's going to tell on them, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing. The other thing that came up with pets was checking with your insurance, because there are a few breeds that aren't accepted by a lot of insurance companies. And I think it was a little tricky in some instances because, if the tenant claims it's a emotional support animal or something like that, it's hard to not accept that pet. I think, Josh, if you're there, you had a little bit of input being in the business that you're in.
Yeah, I guess I think you got it covered pretty well. I think my big input, I think before, was just the insurance and just covering certain breeds and stuff because of the liability issues.
Yeah, okay. Any other things you guys can think of that he might want to put in the lease that I don't have too much experience with the leases since all of our stuff is with handled by property managers.
Yeah, and part of he's gonna use the I'm gonna try that hybrid thing that Hemlane does. So because it seems like more up my alley where it's like and it's an assistant to the landlord as opposed to just like pure property management. I might eventually switch to that, but I'm just giving it a shot first and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think Dion recommends running your lease by a local attorney also because they would probably have some recommendations for your specific area. Because I know that can vary a little bit from place to place also.
Okay.
How about anybody else? Cody, are you working or are you supposed to be working?
I am on a work trip, but I'm just at the hotel by myself.
Okay,
But
cool.
just hanging out in bed. But I got the old guy REI shirt on right now.
There you go.
Dropping it out today.
That'll get you a lot of special treatment, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I just had a work trip this week, so we're had some time not with the kids today. So
yeah.
makes it
Where did you have to go for work?
Minneapolis. I had to drive and see some people today. So
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
going to hoping you were here too because so for the duplex that we have in Milwaukee, we got a tenant moved in yesterday and
nice.
they have another qualified tenant that's supposed to move in on the 30th. So that was a
Perfect.
huge relief. Yeah, huge relief.
Awesome.
It was at the same rents as the old tenants at $13.50 each, but they were saying that things were a little bit slow as far as rent increases and things like that. But also, the property manager did 6-month leases so that they would end in the summer, which they brought to my attention, and I thought that was a pretty good deal if the tenants agreed to it. Just moving forward,
Yeah, I like that, especially in our area, just because it's cold. When I used to do it before I had a property manager, I did 18-month leases a lot of times, or yeah, I either said 6 or 18,
Mhm.
and then yeah, try to get it to end in April, May, which is a lot better timing. Yeah, just our area is tough this time of year.
Yeah, that's what I just did up here in New Hampshire for November, 18-month lease, so it ends in what? End of April, so I'll be renting out from May 1st. I do like the 18-month lease option better because it just looks better to lenders if you're trying to get another mortgage because of the long lease term. If you do a 6-month, they are not happy about leases that end in like 3 months or less.
Got it. Yeah, I thought I always think a little bit about that too, but in the position we're in right now, I don't think we'll be looking for any loans in probably within the next year at least. So I felt pretty good about that. Robert, you had on another meeting, you had mentioned the 18-month leases, and were you the one who was offering 12 or 18-month lease, and you had some incentives to help
Yes.
with the 18s? Could you
Yes.
remind
It
me
was
what
just
those?
it was $100 per month off the rent, so they could have signed a 12-month lease at $2,700, or they could have signed an 18-month lease at $2,600, and they chose the $2,600 18-month lease. So, you know, now wasn't the rent I was hoping for after spending a free month rehab. I was hoping to get 3,000, but it being November, I have to take what I can get. Still a $300 rent increase from before, so we'll call that a win.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the same spot as you are. Really relieved that we have tenants going into that duplex because we got estimates for the turnover, and at first it was just, painting and trash hauling and cleaning and things like that. And then once they cleaned the second unit, they found that the carpet was really messed up, so we had to end up replacing carpet. So things just kept adding up, and it was time
Yeah.
to stop the bleeding.
What always happens? Like this turned into a 3-month long rehab just because of floors. I wanted to like plywood level floors and put vinyl flooring down, but then the outlets were so low to the ground. I'm like, oh great. If I rip out the carpet and put in vinyl floors, these outlets are going to be too low, so I need to raise them all. And if I was going to raise all the outlets at that point, it's like, you know what? Let's basically just rewire this entire house at this point, since I'm messing with like literally every outlet in the house to begin with.
Yeah, and so I remember you talking about the flooring that evening, and is this the same one you were cutting the door a couple of weeks ago?
Oh God, yes. Oh my God. So get this, Frank. Oh yeah, you're probably gonna love to hear this one. Welcome to old New England buildings. So the top, so the top of the door, was it the top of the door frame was slinted, had a 3/4 inch slide on it. The side of the door frame on where the strike plate was also not straight, and then the floor under it was also not straight. I actually at that point gave up and had someone else figure out what to do with it. It was the only thing that was straight was where the hinges went on, thank God. But oh God, yeah, I wasted $200 on a door because of that. It was that was just the most awful experience in the world.
Yep, I understand what you're saying. So I guess a couple of thoughts would have been to r- remove and reinstall the jamb. So you could have gotten, if the hinge side was straight, you could have gotten the top straight and the latch side straight, and it would have only had to deal with the floor. That is a little bit of work.
I at that point I already signed the lease, so I was running out of time.
Okay, gotcha.
But
so,
well, I was just gonna say, coming off this 3-month rehab, I was like doubting myself whether this was a good idea or not to rent in November, but doubts cleared. So I just am about to finish a second loan on this place. So I bought it back in 2019 for free, $138,000. My hope was, well, I hope it can get to $500,000. I got blown away out of the water and it appraised for $570,000.
wow, nice.
Which means I am now taking out a second loan I now have $115,000 in the bank to play with.
Nice job, Robert.
Yeah, excellent.
This appraiser scared me at first with some of the things that came out of his mouth, like saying like 3 bedrooms. I don't have any comps for a 2 4-bedroom apartment, so I got to use free bedroom comps. And I was like, oh, great, here we go. But yeah, it all worked out. And yeah, now, was it? It's not, I don't think, I don't know if Zuber, Matt, or Dion talk about this much. Well, definitely not Dion, but I now have an infinite return on that property. I, for sure, at this point, just took out more than I ever put into it, from the down payment to all the repairs I ever did.
Nice.
And it cash flows more than it did when I bought it. So
That's great. And that's what we're all hoping for.
yeah.
Yeah.
With that, on to the next property. And on that note, since
Excellent.
Chris, you're on the call, you could probably have some experience on this. I hope other people do. So on Sunday, I randomly just cold called one person and got a hit of someone on my first try, of someone who's interested in seller financing.
Nice.
I was kind of unprepared because I was not expecting it to go that well. So that might have actually been hard.
That's the way they all go.
So
You're always surprised by who bites, right?
Yeah. So for those who have done seller financing, from your experience, like what really caught the eye the most? Because I tried to explain it to him. We're scheduled to have another call on Friday, but to people who've done successful seller financing, what did you do that like sold them the most on the seller financing?
I'm happy to offer my data set of my one win against my 11 attempts. So, my success rate is 7%. So don't take this as verbatim, but, Robert, as an engineer, the first mistake I made is like treating it as a quantitative exercise versus an emotional exercise. So you have to have a conversation with them. You can't go through the agents. That's a disaster. Unless if they're super experienced on both sides, that might be a different story. But like, you can't trust the agents. You got to have a direct conversation with the seller. Two is you got a good understanding of their perspective, their situation. Are they older? Are they mostly paid off? Like whatever. And then my first pass, I built this like what we would call in the supply chain space a term sheet. Like, well, it's like this. I'm going to give you this interest rate. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no. If they're over 50, that's all going to go over their head. Like, what you want to say is like, look, interest rates today, I'd have to pay you 200 grand less. You need a one pager that summarizes the deal. And the way I framed it is like, look, with current interest rates, I'd have to pay you X dollars below what you're asking, with, the 7+% interest rates. But if you're willing to like support a 2% interest rate, I can make this deal work at your asking price or whatever you want to offer, right? But instead of getting into like, interest rate payment, I would just say like the net is, if you accept this deal, I will pay you $1,500 a month for 5 years, and then I'll buy you out. And it, gives you it has a lot of benefits around taxes and other things, right? Like I would say you have to read the audience, read the room, not overcomplicate it, keep it simple. Don't get an interest rate and pay, just keep it very simple. Like, look, I will, with the high interest rates, I'd have to pay you less. If you'll hold the financing, hold the note, I can pay you this much every month, and then I can buy you out in X months or years, right? Just keep it simple. I mean, as you get more into it, and because what will happen is if they have any level of sophistication, they will engage their accountants, their lawyers, their family, and then you'll have to get into more specifics. But you got to sell it as simply as possible, my humble opinion.
All right. Right. So looks like I didn't drop the ball too much then. Things might have actually turned out okay from that first conversation. So this was actually very interesting. So it started so this was a property that was listed about a year and three months ago and was taken off the MLS. So I basically call them like, hey, are you still interested in selling your property? And I basically, it's like, why do you want to sell your property? Oh, I don't like being a landlord anymore. And I know why, because I saw that I did a showing of this property. What was it? A year ago when it was for sale. Like, he was dealing with squatters and there was shit everywhere. So that kind of, I guess from that point, he just didn't want to deal with anything to do with this anymore. So, okay. And I told him, it's like, oh, did you like being a landlord and making money? Oh, yes. Oh, well, are you open to this? Are you open to this concept called seller financing? And his response to that was, oh, yeah, I've heard of seller financing. I kind of wanted to do that. So I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's the biggest thing is them having somewhat familiarity with it. That seems to be when I've had success is like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. It's really hard to talk to someone that doesn't or
yeah.
it's not really familiar or they don't know what it is because they just don't understand what the process is. But so all mine that I've done, they've seemed to have a grasp of at least, either I've done it before or have know someone that had done it. And I think that's key. And then the other part is like, are they able to sell or finance? Is
Yeah.
the property paid off and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So this is very interesting. I think the owner is only like 35 years old. I don't know how he got the property, but he got it a long time back. And if he owes anything on the property, because I looked at all the county records, he got the property back in 2015 with for like pennies on what it was. It was like 2013 or 2015 for like a very small amount, and there's been no other liens recorded against the property since. So I don't know if this was an inheritance or what, but this guy is only 35 years old. Now, the downside of what I'm fighting an uphill battle here is he wants like a 33% down payment, which, ugh.
What you could do there is
50,
do the
40,
50.
10.
Yep, do the 50 40 10 and then see how much he has left on his mortgage, if any. And then that included with the down payment, like that'll give him enough money,
Yeah.
So it'll pay off the mortgage and it'll give him down payment, and then the balance you can seller finance.
Yeah.
And then you
Although-
can just decide the percentage there.
The only thing I'd add is I think that's the right strategy. I was just wondering, but you could test on the margins, like, well, like, would you be willing to do 20% if I gave you an extra point of interest, right?
He was entertaining it because basically he said, oh, I want to sell this property for like 38 to like $40,000. Now he went on the market at 350,000 last year and didn't sell. And I made it clear to him, well, if I told him flat out, it's like, oh, you want $400,000? I can do that with seller finance. I can make that happen with seller financing if I get the right terms. But if you want all cash, I could also do conventional, but I'd probably be only willing to pay up to what was it? What that last price? The $350,000. So, so that's how I also pitched it to him. He also seems to be looking for an 8-year repayment period, which is good. So, it was an initial conversation. I found his phone number, but we exchanged emails and contact information. He actually lives in the same city as me. So we're supposed to have a phone call Friday, but I'm going to see if he's willing to meet in person. So like I can bring my computer and I can I guess show him more real numbers, but it seems like right off the get-go, like seller financing is something he was interested in doing to begin with. He seems like he wants to sell because of a bad experience. So I don't know.
Are you familiar with the Brett Whittle calculator at all?
No, I'm not.
So that if you're looking for like a snapshot of like what the payment would be and then what the balloon would be, that calculator does a really good job of seeing what's your payment, what's your interest rate, what's the amortization schedule, and then If you want a balloon in 8 years, you can show like what the payoff amount would be too. So I can kind of give you all those pieces to it. So if you look it up on Google, you should be able to pull it up, and then I just like print it off and like give it to them. That's what I've done, and then they can kind of see, okay, this is what it would be at a 8 year balloon at 3%. This is what it would be at 4%, or whatever you wanted to show.
Well, yeah, we'll see where I go with this because I'm ready to get very nutty with this. Like, so I'm actually fine having an adjustable rate period, like let's say 2% for like the first 4 years or so, and then 6 to 7% the other 4 years, because, well, maybe I'm getting a little over my head in my property because I know this probably isn't going to work out as perfectly as I want it to, but this is a very interesting duplex with the fact that it's has two bedroom units, but then there's the attic, which I call the gold mine, which is how do I put this? It's like 5 finished bedrooms and a functional bathroom without a kitchen. So there's a very nice opportunity to add a unit, possibly 2. And I say 2 because, well, if I think, Chris, you're the only one in this boot camp this time around talking about how cities don't like big bedroom counts because of the tax burden on children and schools. So there's multiple ideas in my mind around this. 2 studios, just from Matt's idea of don't have big bedroom counts because bedrooms equals children, and
Yeah.
municipalities in New Hampshire pay about what, like $60,000 a year per student. So
Yeah.
they're not kind to that. Possibly go for another unit, or something they can not really stop me on doing is like literally add a wall, and then I have like, God, a 6
Yeah.
bedroom free bath unit. But it's not only that, like the first floor unit has a pretty well finished attic that, well, if all I did was like move the electric panel somewhere else, that might require a rewire of the entire second and third floor, which might not be good. But I could add a bedroom in the attic just because of how high the ceilings are.
Yeah.
And which is very rare in New Hampshire. Usually it's very old buildings with very old basements that have like 5 feet of clearance or less.
Yeah.
So,
But I will say, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Robert.
I was just saying, that's kind of why I'm okay with like the adjustable rate is in 4 years, I expect there to be a huge value add on this property, which would offset the adjustable rate.
Interesting. The 4 years coincides with the next election cycle, but all good.
Well, I just said 4 years because he wants 8 years, so I'm like, all right, split the difference between 2 rates.
Yeah, but 8 years gives you the right level of optionality. I think as long as you have the ability to refinance in the interim with no penalty, then I think that gives you, that's the best of both worlds, right? Because I would tell you, like, so the election has had a very dramatic impact on my clients who are all private equity, who own, I'll just give you my personal Chris only expert opinion. They own about 40% of the business in the US, which is just a crap ton of our economic world. Right? And if we extrapolate forward, right, like the mentality is like, look, we're going to build tariff walls, which is going to have a lot. And the long-term goal is very noble. Like, I want our US manufacturing to be strong, competitive, and capable to be able to go against China. I have a team of 50 people, or 30 to 50 people, right? And we we are sourcing everything from aircraft components to consumer items to electronics, like every day, right? And China is always cheaper, right? So the only way to make that work is you apply, as Trump says, right, like 60% tariff on China. And if I extrapolate 10 years from now, like we're going to be in a good spot because it's going to push US manufacturing to get better, cheaper, faster, more automated. I'm at a site now. They're a $500 million site, highly automated, really good, but they can get better. So like that's the goal, right? And then we're more autonomous, less dependent on China. So think about what the path looks like to get there. Two things, like option one, or I call it impact one. Like there's a lot of investment we're going to have to do to get there. Like I'm talking like billions, if not trillions of
Do you
dollars
have
to
some
get there.
paper I could use?
Yeah. So interest rates will get lower to be able to allow these businesses to borrow the dollars to capitalize the manufacturing equipment and automation to make them competitive. And two, this is the part that scares me personally. In the interim, if you think about the life cycle of how this works, like Trump inflicts 60% tariffs on China, where most of our stuff comes from, just to be completely candid. And our our suppliers pass that on to us, and we see 25 to 40% increases in any material good we buy that's not a service, right? Your TVs, your in some cases your food. To be amazed how much your food supply comes from China. It'll be 3 to 8 years of pain, and then it will get better. But so interest rates will come down. But the inflation environment will get bumpier for the next couple of years because the broader inflation issues are going down. But the China impact of untangling us from China, if Trump has his way, is going to provide an offset to that. So just my humble view, a well-educated guy but not an economist, I just something to think about.
Well, from my perspective, I need to make this deal work the way I can because what the environment I've seen is right now. One, I don't know what Mike Zuber's talking about. A buyer's market is still a red hot seller's market here in New Hampshire, well, specifically for two to 4 unit properties. It's definitely slowing down on single families, but there's a thing about 2 to 4 unit properties where they just go. Like, unless you're like, and it surprises me what kind of deals people are buying out there. The stipulation is that Boston investors have invaded all of our markets and are severely driving up prices, which is probably true. That is without a doubt. And Boston investors are used to very low returns, so they're gobbling stuff up. The other thing that is very concerning to me, which I'm hitting, is I'm also looking on MLS. There have been a couple of decent deals to entertain. I am starting to say, I'm starting to get the response, you're house hacking too much. We don't want to give you an owner occupied loan. They don't like the fact that this is house hack number 4, and they don't think my reasons are good enough for moving. So, and it is completely unviable for me to invest in a market where I'm looking at spending, well, my markets at the low end, if I were to get a very small size duplex in the least expensive market I invest in, which would be $350,000, all the way up to, in some instances, approaching $1 million houses, fourplexes. So if I have to do something adjustable that is within reason, I'm not going to do something stupid, because I know for a fact that that property is going to have some sort of value add that will offset that rate increase, I'll do it. On the seller side anyways.
Robert, so when you talk about being on your fourth house hack, are the ones that you've moved into the same size as the ones you were leaving? Because I know you guys talk about that.
Well, therein lies some of the problems. Duplexes, I'm trying to move to a 2 to a 4. Now, why is that? Duplexes don't really cash flow anymore in my market. They just don't. They're
Can if you go back to page 4, are we hitting all the agenda items? Cool.
so basically, yeah. Reminder of how my duplex just appraised at something way above I thought it would appraise for. Now that duplex I have is a very, I talk about like $570,000 where I'm getting $2,750, $2,600. There was a comp used that sold for $545 a month ago, and he was trying to rent out. It was a new owner occupant trying to rent out a side of his triplex, and I think he could do better than this, but maybe not because it's the winter time. Well, especially if he doesn't do match techniques, but we'll see. But he was only wanting $2,000 for his his free unit. And I'm just like, why did he even buy that thing in the first place? Because he was buying, he went under contract in August, so he was at least at 6.5, and he's house hacking and only getting 2,000 out of the other side. And that also begs the question on some of these. It's like, are these just people who can't afford single family homes who are just pushing towards duplexes because that $2,000 actually gets them a yes answer versus a single family home that gets them a no? Because while duplexes have grown at a faster pace than single family, the price per unit ratio per se has definitely widened between single family and duplexes to the point where a lot of them don't make sense. I mean, even these guys, like this 4 unit I'm looking at, like it's a bunch of 2 bedrooms he's renting out for like $1,200 with tenants he's had for 10 years. I think, for a 2 bedroom, Section 8 pays more than that in my market. They pay like $2,100 for a 2 bedroom. Now that's contingent on finding a voucher, but even if I were to be very conservative, I'd say let's just be really conservative and say $1,750 for a 2 bedroom, even if they're like dated. So, and he wants this, and he's trying to sell this thing at $740,000. So with those rents. So of course they post no pictures of the inside, so it's a wild guess of what it looks like in there, but yeah, again, this is why I want this deal to go through, because I need to, I'm in growth mode. I need to keep growing somehow, and it's like the MLS is not it. I might get something decent, but something decent's also going to have 5 other offers.
True. I was going to check in with a couple of you to refresh my memory. So Kevin, you were trying to get to Pittsburgh, is that right?
No, actually, I was in Arizona, Georgia, in Atlanta, but I actually changed markets. I'm now looking in San Diego.
Oh, okay. And where are you living?
I'm out in San Francisco, it's Bay Area.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Mhm. Learn the market. I'm looking into just doing like the ADU play down there. Anything in California, it seems like that's sort of what the play is. So,
Yeah.
um,
Are they, I know here in like Santa Cruz up where we're at, they always say they're trying to make it easier for ADUs and stuff, but I haven't found that to be the case yet. Have you dug into the process down there yet to see what they expect as
yeah. So at least down in San Diego, it seems like um, they are trying to make it. They're pretty good about stimulating growth. So they're sort of leading that effort. They have ADUs. You still need a permit and everything, so that still takes 6 months or so to obtain. Um, but for me, we're hunting for the right lot to do that. Because there are some requirements, so you can just get all this stuff, basic requirements off of planning website, like the government planning website. So yeah, I've sort of dug into research doing that, and then they also offer a bonus ADU program. So essentially, you can build as many ADUs on the lot as you want. So some people are going like 17 ADUs, but obviously that cost is much higher. Yeah, I'm just digging into the market at this moment. So
okay, interesting. Have you seen there were some areas that Zuper and I think that ADU guy we're talking about, some counties that have like plans already approved for 2 or 3 different kinds of.
yeah, and that sort of streamlines it exactly. I think San Diego does have that. Yeah, those are fairly, standard things that we could take a look at.
Okay.
I've been diving into that ADU guy's, Derek, his name is, right? Content just to sort of wrap my head around. I mean, because he's also a contractor, so just looking into like different types of things to look for, I should say, and just build basic, you know, um, build stuff, I guess. Yeah, it's insightful. It's my
So
issue
what?
that I've been running into is that I've been trying to get, and maybe this is just an adjustment for my mind. Um, it's more of I'm trying to break even on the primary home that you could probably be purchasing, and then or at least get close enough to break even on the primary, and then the 80, so I'd get that stabilized, and then while waiting essentially 12 to 18 months to build an ADU. It's like a 6 month process to get the permit, plus another 6 to 7 months typically for a build if you're on point. Um, and so that's what I've been running into is when I've been comping everything, everything is looking like it's they're all alligators.
Hmm.
But that also makes sense because of the high cost of living.
So what would somebody do with 17 ADUs? Can they rent all those out?
Yeah, they can rent them all out. I think one thing about San Diego, which sort of makes it unique, is that it's positioned between two major universities, the State University, SDSU, and then also UCSD. So those two are pretty big universities and popular because of, I guess, the beach culture too. So you can build one unit, or I should say like 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, units, for instance, or stack them. yeah, I mean, the lot needs to be large enough to be able to handle that. But I think it's based off of floor area ratio
So
that they
would it be like
provide.
about 1,000 square feet of land for each one?
Yeah, it depends because you can build like, for instance, you can build a 1,200 square foot, but you stack it, right? 600 and 600. Um, you know, so that really depends, and that's just how much money that you're willing to put into it. For instance, if you wanted to add an elevator, elevator, yeah, you're essentially like what I'm thinking. The way I look about it is that we're essentially mini developers. We're building mini multifamily units from a single family. So either that adding, becoming duplex uh, from a single family on a single family lot, um, essentially with an attached ADU. They also have the ability, which I don't plan on doing, but the junior ADU. I think that needs to be an owner occupied. But you also have the ability in California, I think based off of SB 9, a Senate bill that was passed a couple of years ago, to split the lot and sell off the lot, sell off the ADU as a separate, as a whole separate entity.
Wow.
So I think there's a couple of things that are going for it. It's just, I'm just really starting to dive into it right now, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
How much is how much is all like the government costs, like permits and all that?
I think it just depends. Full builds generally, if it depends on how much you can take on, but if you're looking at like, I've been hearing, anywhere between like, if you're a contractor doing it yourself, you can get it done at like $120 square foot. And typically you'll see it at like 300 to $350 a square foot. So if you're looking at like 1,000 square feet, 2 bed or 3 bed, one bath, 2 bed, 2 bath, something like that, in that range, you're probably able to rent it out for 3,200, 3K, 3,200 for a 2 bed, maybe a 4K for a 3 bed. So you're over the 1% rule if you're hitting 350 a square foot.
Wow.
Yeah, I think my mom was looking at doing a second unit on her lot, and just the fees to get it rolling were about 23,000 here. And that was
in Watsonville.
Yeah, in Watsonville.
Yeah.
And that included, the sewer hookups, the extra
Right.
gas hookups and things like that. And I was
So you're
gonna ask-
trenching, you're sending out a full like a trench, right, to a city,
right.
because you essentially need separate to have it as an ADU, a detached ADU. You have a separate unit,
Yeah, separate utilities. Yeah.
separate utilities, exactly, and living space for that.
Have you gotten far enough into your investigation to know what the standard lot size is there? Because up here it's like usually 6,000 to 7,000 square foot lots.
Depending on the area, yeah. We've seen a lot of. I've seen a lot of for 4,500 to 7,000, somewhere between that. I guess if you're closer to the beach, it's smaller, but also much more costly. And I'm not really quite looking beachfront properties.
Yeah, no, of course.
A little too pricey. But the further inland you get in, it's cheaper as you go in, and larger lots. So I think I want to stay in San Diego, but there are neighboring cities like La Mesa, like literally, bordering San Diego, and I think that does house some students as well, that also, are fairly lax with the ADUs. I don't know if you can go bonus ADU and build as many as you want, but they do have a little bit larger lots, so that might be more beneficial if that were the case. But I figured I'd at least at this stage stay in San Diego, and sort of expand my search from there afterwards if I'm really striking out.
Yeah, up here too, there was a limit. I think she was limited to like 680 square feet, and there was
Maybe 750 or something.
Parking, parking restrictions and things like that, or I think they wanted 2 off-street parking spaces. So that was going to take up the front part of her extra lot, and then the house would be just behind that. And there was certain other rules for some. I can't remember what the rule was, but it made it easier if she basically attached the ADU roof to the existing garage roof.
Yeah, then it's considered an attached unit, and has different regulations, right? Setbacks, I think, are generally the same. They're these are all through planning codes, but generally like a 4-foot setback, sides and backyard setback. But yeah, I mean, I think we were having this thing where we were just thinking about like how many we'd want to build on one, for instance, and sort of, like we're trying to be conscious of like neighborhood and urban vernacular. So we want to stay within the neighborhood context. If we're not trying to be a sore thumb in a neighborhood, build a giant McMansion out in somewhere. So we're like, well, maybe in some of these areas we just go smaller play of like maybe, and you can do garage conversions, you can do above garage ADUs to sort of save on space, and have staircases out, and that would be considered an attached. There's several ways to do it. So yeah. Ready to pull the trigger. It's just looking for the right deal, I guess.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of research. I mean, even like, when Zuber talked about how far he got, and then realizing they were going to make him do solar panels and stuff, that just proved a deal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's kind of hard, to get started, and you are going to have some money invested in the beginning of the process, and then to find out things like that, it's pretty tough. And do you know, Derek, you were talking about him earlier. Is he down in that area? Or
no, he's in Oregon. He's up north.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Ashland area.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty insightful. He's got, just thinking about like being efficient with connections with water lines and things like that. And he also talks about like essentially, it reminded me of what Robert was saying about like you just put a wall up, and you soundproof it, and you can separate master bedrooms, for instance, because they already have their own bathrooms. Oftentimes, if you're putting the right wall, a wall in the right location, and that can be considered. And then just building out from there. Then you have a 2-bed, 2-bath, for instance, or 2-bed, 1-bath built off your master bedroom.
Right. Yeah.
So there are ways that you can sort of build around, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. Getting creative, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and it seems like it might be nice to start that way, right? Working with something that's already existing, like you said, a garage, going up or turning the garage into a unit, things like that. And the more you learn with each project, then maybe you won't have those big setbacks like Zuber had.
Yeah, I think the other thing that Zuber was missing out on was that he was in a historic district, in the Mayfair district. And so that has a lot more ramifications or regulations, I should say. So
have you run across any talk of sprinkler systems? Or the unit's small enough that they don't require them?
I haven't dove into it. I have heard that on some that were down in SoCal, but I haven't seen anything
Hmm.
in the SD stuff. At least I mean, maybe I haven't dove into it that deep yet to
Yeah,
find that out.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think on regular building, depending on the square footage,
Mhm.
after a certain point, it comes into play and it's required. But yeah, it seems like those units are so small, they wouldn't really need to do that.
Yeah, you can have them at 600 square feet
Mm-hmm.
up to 1,200, I think, is for each unit.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Hey, Kevin.
Oregon,
Hey, Kevin, I've been in and out doing work calls, but I'm local to San Diego as well. Are you local here?
Oh, nice. No, I'm out in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if you wanted to do a job walk or a property walk, I could bring my creative mind along.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love that. There's a potential that I might be down there sometime, and I do want to I'll probably make out a trip. Oh, maybe monthly or bi-monthly. I don't know, something like that to just to start to look at the areas. Maybe I'll pick your brain about I mean, how long have you been out there?
I'm a native, so 43 years.
Okay, there you go. So you know the area well then.
Yeah, and the offer stands in between time when you're up there. If you need somebody to go and run and look at a property, give you some film footage, and even film the neighborhood a little bit, I can do all that for you.
Yeah. I'd love to pick your brain sometime. We should connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. All right.
My son's giving me the eye. That's how it's done.
And I'm like, my kiddo's playing outside right now. I had to go into his room.
speaking of Oregon, we have the other Oregonian there. Hi, Jared.
Hey guys, I just figured I'd pop on in. I just finished up my co-living thing for people that wanted to ask questions, so I figured I'd pop on in here.
Great. How did it go?
Pretty good. I had a ton of questions, so I mean, a lot of stuff. So it was just back to back to back. So it was fun.
Good. How many attendees?
I have 4, but 2 stuck around the whole time. And people pop in and out. So kind of a niche thing, right? Co-living on a
Give
Wednesday.
us a summary.
Buy houses, add bedrooms, make money. There you go. Rent by
All
room
right.
model.
You think there's a market for it in San Diego?
I don't know, but I don't invest in California.
I think there
is.
probably would be with all the college around here.
Yeah, expensive.
That's what I was figuring too, but I'm like, because I've been hearing that they're renting rooms out there and at close to the colleges at like 1,600, 1,650 per bedroom.
Yeah, it sounds about right for the area.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
up
about-
from 1,500, I think, last year. At least I just hear whispers, so can't confirm.
The last time I was paying rent was right around the pandemic, right around the start of the pandemic, and I was with my brother and one of his friends. I was paying $850 a month for a room. I did have the master though, so I had the bathroom.
Nice.
Trying to remember our rent though. I think it was 2,600, I think, for a 3-bedroom.
That seems pretty
Sure.
reasonable.
I'm sure it's up from now, or it's up from there from now. I'm sure it's probably 31, 32 now.
Yeah, I think easy because for 2 bedroom, 1 bath up here in the Santa Cruz area, it's so right around 3,000. It's not getting any cheaper, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing rents going up or down in your market?
I talked about our experience the other day. I think Cody Cody was with us that night, and when the 2025 FMRs came out, so we all jumped in and checked our markets, and the first one I checked, it was down from, it was going to go down this year in 2025. So I panicked. I had to check all the other markets, and thankfully they were going to be okay. But it was just one zip code. We're in 2 zip codes in St. Louis, actually 3, and one of them out of those 3 was down like $80, and the other ones were up, $25 to $75. But I was talking earlier about one unit that we're finally getting a couple of tenants in, the duplex in Milwaukee, and the property manager ended up keeping the rents where they were. Those were the 2 evictions that I've spoken about on other meetings. So those tenants were at $13.50, and the new tenants are at $13.50. There hasn't been an increase there, but I was glad. Well, I'm glad to get the units filled. It's been a while. And we're going to be testing that scenario in St. Louis because we have 3 units, 3 homes to fill in St. Louis. So
Wow. Have you bought something recently, or is these existing that went vacant?
one of them was existing that went vacant, and we closed on 2 around August and September, 1 in each month. And so we've been doing fix-ups on those.
Got it.
Yeah, but it's been taking a while to get the work done, like I talked about earlier on one of our other meetings about, calling or emailing the property manager and then them getting back to me the next day, and just with every little thing, those days sure add up, and it's been a couple of months now, and we're just getting to see the finish line. Kevin, do you have any other units, or is this going to be your first?
This will be our first. I have a primary, but yeah, this will be my first for rental thing.
Okay. Got it. Hey, Chester, we were talking about you earlier. There was someone in here from Baltimore, Maryland that joined us for a minute.
Oh, I was actually on a call with Donato from Bright Investor, and he's hosting office hours. So I was like, I'll hop on because I was like, there were a couple things. Santiago was on there as well, so I don't know whether he's gonna join, but yeah, that was definitely eye-opening about how the platform is starting to evolve. So again, not necessarily a salesman for Bright Investor, but definitely something I would recommend checking out. So, but I guess is oh, and look, and Ryan's here as well. So I guess everybody was kind of waiting on me. So I apologize, everyone. I'm here. But did you happen to get the name of whoever it was from Baltimore?
Yeah, his first name was Tony, and he said he was in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. But we didn't get to put him in the hot seat. He took off before we could do that.
Okay. Well, hopefully he's back next week.
Yeah, I told him about you. Hopefully he will come back. He was just checking us out for the first time. I think he saw Mark come in and he decided it was not a good place.
understandable, especially since he invests in Pittsburgh and there happens to be another, I'll leave the football references out of it. But Mark's presence is good enough. Yep, and there's Santiago. Yep, I was just telling him, I was telling everybody about the call from Bright Investor that we were on.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Seems like a good product. It's a little bit buggy right now, but once they take care of that stuff, it's got a winner.
I thought you had already gone on with Bright Investor Santiago, or was that some other
No,
platform?
I do have a subscription. I got the year subscription for um what's it called from Aries? Do I have it here? Geez, no, I can't even. I have it like down on it recently, but no, there's another application um that I did subscribe to.
Coffee
Coffee
closers.
closers. Yes, yes, that's the one.
Yeah, it seemed
That
like
one been tested both now.
okay. Yeah, the Bright Investors seemed pretty interesting because when he was on with us, was talking about being able to call him and get, if you were having any trouble using the platform and things like that. That seemed pretty valuable because it seems like there's so much information there. It's going to take a little while to dig through it all.
Yeah, the approaches are different. The coffee closers, they kind of sort of do the work for you. And then Bright Investor, you have a numerous options to filter through. So in general, probably better for somebody that knows what they're looking for, maybe. But yeah, both good products. I mean, I'm probably gonna get the year subscription for Bright Investor as well. At least for the 1 year and see how that goes. But yeah, it seems it's a lot better than just going in and looking at Zillow.
Yeah.
You know.
And are you any closer to moving?
In December, I'll be moving. I just filed papers to evict the tenant because she hasn't paid and she keeps telling me she's gonna pay and she hasn't. I was trying to be as patient and nice as possible, but I definitely need the place vacant for myself.
Yeah.
So I can't really push it any longer. So I had to submit some eviction papers. Hopefully that will be complete by the end of the month and I can start moving stuff in December.
Okay.
Yeah, it was something that kind of was interesting that Leon pointed out too, because I have an LLC, that property under an LLC, and is it Leon, right? Yeah, no, Dion. Dion is not a fan of LLCs. So he mentioned that you can't really pursue an eviction personally. It has to be done under, if it has an LLC, you have to do it with a lawyer, stuff like that. So that was interesting navigating that. There's a lot of nuances to that process. In my case, I can submit the paperwork from the LLC as the owner slash manager or whatever. But if it goes to court, then they mandate to have a lawyer. So there's some restrictions there, but fortunately it didn't prevent me from moving forward so far.
Okay.
That would have been another, $500 just for a lawyer to do, just file paperwork on top of the $200 that I paid for the court documents.
Right. Yeah, it was, I think our evictions that the property manager filed, it was about $480 for them to do the eviction, and I think it was 100, like you said, almost 200 for serving of the papers.
Yeah.
But that was in Wisconsin, and it went really quickly. Within, I think, about 3 weeks, both tenants were out, and yeah.
Yeah, this is the first eviction that I've gone through. So, I mean, technically I've had one before, but the guy left voluntarily when I asked him to leave. I don't know if that's really an eviction or not, but this
No.
time, no, yeah. I had to ask him because there was just a lot of drug use and selling drugs on the property and stuff like that. I was like, can't have this. But anyway, yeah, this is my first real eviction here. You know, it's in
When do you have to go to court?
I don't. Hopefully, I don't. That's the thing here in Florida. At least from what I was reading, they just send a letter to them, and if they want to dispute it, they have to write a letter back to the court. If not, I just have to file more paperwork asking them to go ahead and file the motion to evict.
Okay.
That's the only thing. It's just paperwork after paperwork, it seems like. So what you file one set of paperwork to submit that you want to evict them, they'll send it to them. Then you file another paperwork to say that you do want to get them out because they haven't responded to the eviction notice. And then there's another set of paperwork that you file to actually remove them for like the sheriff to actually physically.
Okay. So it sounds like the second step is where they get the eviction on their record.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it sounds like it.
That's really bad. I don't understand why people want that.
I don't know if they know. I tried to warn them that, I'm gonna end up I'm gonna end up keeping their security deposit at least to cover what the late fees and all that stuff. I don't know, probably I don't think I even needed to tell them that. I tried to give them as much warning as I could, it's not a good thing.
Are you able to recover your fees?
Yes, so part of the eviction, they had two options. They had just an eviction and an eviction with damages. So the damages includes any past due rent.
No, but your filing fees, do they pay for those?
No, there was an option
Okay.
to. I don't think so. I didn't see that option. There's an option for the court to
Yeah.
pay for them. If I was like,
Okay, so
if I had a
it's
hard.
coming out of your pocket. The only thing you can retrieve is the late payment and the rent.
Yeah,
Late payment fee. Okay.
I'm probably gonna be out like maybe $300, hopefully at most. But at least I'll recover, $1,000 plus
Yeah.
another month of rent.
Well, that's really cheap because in East Point, I had to pay $5,000
Jeez.
to it was just one person would do the eviction for the whole city, which is like kind of crooked, totally corrupt. I couldn't hire my own couldn't hire a sheriff, or I couldn't get my own moving company to a trash out company. I couldn't hire my own, so the trash out cost $5,000 to hire, and the guy charged by the pound or whatever. It came out to 5,000.
Wow.
So yeah, I sold the house right after that.
So
Yeah,
Mitesh,
never
the-
another Blue City again. Never.
was the $5,000 trash out and you had some expenses for the actual eviction?
Yeah, it's a couple thousand on top of that for the eviction and all that other good stuff.
Okay.
'Cause they get the eviction, but they get to live like a month or two more after that in there. So yeah, East Point, terrible. St. Paul is the worst city, by the way. St. Paul, Minnesota. I never do business there.
No.
Is
Yeah,
that
don't you feel much better now?
Yeah, it helps us a lot. So East Point is where?
It's like a little bit outside Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
I see you using a red marker with a big X on it right now.
Yeah. Do not go there. I see.
Mitesh, is not East Point, St. Paul, is that also part of Hennepin County, or is that only Minneapolis?
I think it's right near Minneapolis. Let me see what county it is. St. Paul, Minnesota County. Ramsey. It's called Ramsey.
Ah, okay. So
I would
yeah, they're
just stay
right next
out of
to
the whole state. It's that bad.
When you
Gotcha.
say you couldn't hire the trash out service, who did?
You had to go through somebody that was authorized by the court.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like I think he was like a sheriff. He wasn't a sheriff, but he was like a sheriff. And only he had the right to do the eviction, the trash out.
Okay.
There's just one guy for the whole thing too, so you have no choice Let's use them. You couldn't do your own trash up. What a nice position to have.
Yeah, they're making some money.
Yeah. I think there's some corruption involved.
Seems like just a little bit.
I don't know whether I should ask, or maybe this is something you guys might have already talked about, but I know like Zuber had already mentioned about the election. Was anybody planning on, or is anybody like, basically sort of glad that the election is over, and now that, it's like, hey, you can start doing more, basically getting back to doing the work, and, anything crazy like that in your markets or anything like that? Has anybody seen anything like that?
I'm really glad to not hear about it, to be quite honest with you. I didn't hear much about it today. I watched one George Gammon video earlier, and that was about it. Simon had a video. He didn't talk much about it. It was great, man. It was relieving.
Yeah, I think the big thing, because like, I don't know if you call it like a blowout or mandate or whatever they call it, but like, because it was so definitive and like there's no contesting it, it's like, all right, this is completely put to bed. Literally, let's move on to the next thing. So yeah, definitely from that perspective, I'm relieved. I don't know if anybody's like talked about who they had or had not voted for or anything like that, but yeah, definitely am glad that that is behind us now for sure. Just
Yeah.
Trump,
me, it
Trump
makes it a little
2024.
But there's always I don't think the economy's it's on a downwards, trajectory. Because the one thing, if they do reduce the bureaucracy, that means less jobs, right? So, and just overall, the whole economy just oversold, overbought. So we'll see.
I never go on Twitter or X or whatever I call it, Twitter. But I did happen to see a Trump tweet where he was saying we're 3 days away from incredible prosperity if he wins, and we're 3 days away from incredibly terrible economic numbers if she wins. And I thought, wow, that's pretty gnarly to be able to turn this big, huge boat in 3 days.
Well, they just overspent. The government's just overspent the last 4 years, so that's where the inflation came from.
Yeah, we could, I mean, like the stimulus checks, like I'll be totally honest, like, for those who are like, what is inflation and how does it work, or inflation 101, that should have been a master class in like, as soon as you take this free money, there's going to be a consequence to it. Like, always remember, there's no such thing as free money.
Well, people liked it temporarily. They enjoyed their 3 to 6 months of payments, and then after that, they suffer.
Like, you're still suffering years later after getting 3 or 4 stimmy checks.
It was the stimmy checks. It was the moratoriums. It was all the help. It was all the help combined. It was just nuts, man.
Yeah, I forgot about all of that. I'm like, holy crap, that's right.
It was an aggregate.
Did any of that benefit you guys? Did you guys get like the PPP loans? Any of you guys?
I didn't. I was like, that looks like a ticking time bomb, and they're still, I think, going after people today.
Yeah, my accountant told me, yeah, they went after a few people. I'm glad I didn't do any of that, and I could have applied for unemployment using my corporation, but I didn't do that either. So I don't want to get involved with the government. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else got involved.
Yeah, I was a jerk. I watched Mark Moss, and he was talking about an SBA loan that was non-recourse. So I went ahead and I grabbed, what did they give me? I think 11 grand. And I was just starting out my investment career, so I thought I'm gonna do it. I'm not really proud of it, but yeah, I did it.
So was that a forgivable loan?
Yeah, pretty much just a grant where it's non-recourse, so they don't care if I pay it back or not.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
I put it to use. So I mean, I didn't just squander it and buy
And by Rolex.
hookers and cocaine, I
There
put
you
it to
go.
use.
Well, you.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Like, yeah, I just figured like I at that point I think was still trying to figure out I think the first market. So we would have spent about 21. So yeah, I was like, still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, not realizing that 3 years later I'd be only just now closing on the first property. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's why I was just kind of more curious, really, than anything. If there's been any, I guess we want to call it like market shifts or any like, 'cause this was actually something, Ryan, when we were talking about with Dion on the course call yesterday, and I was saying there's a possibility that maybe some folks are not looking to buy or looking to rent because my property is still vacant. And so I was like, the combination of the
Did you try reducing the price?
winter. Yes, yeah. So those are definitely walked through everything. So now it's listed for 1325. So that's definitely in the
Get any
range.
responses?
So there've been a couple more, but I'm not 100% sure whether it's specifically due to the election, which now that it's behind us, there may be a little bit more movement on it, or exactly what. But leading up to it, it wasn't really getting a whole lot of traction. But now,
For me, it takes about 3 months in that area for me to get somebody that's reliable and qualified. About 2 to 3 months.
okay, that's definitely good to know. But yeah, that's one of the other reasons why that was one of the things, having the buffer, the cash buffer, what do you want to call it, like a reserves basically.
Yeah. I get a lot of responses, but very few people apply, and then out of those, it's like only very few qualify out of that.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's glad you're actually on, Mitesh. What tenant criteria do you use in the area?
Primarily income, the ability to pay, and then it's just long term, like what kind of job do they have? It's a matter of you're just figuring out if they're able to pay, and then there's just a type of debt they're in, because they're not going to have good credit. So it's just you got to figure out, how they got in trouble and what are they paying and what are they not paying. So if it's like medical or some other type of debt or credit card debt, so things like that, you want to see whether they've been paying rent, things like that. So essentially, it's things like that.
Okay, and I'm
There-
guessing,
so
but you also
it's two
Mhm.
things. It's the ability to pay and the willingness to pay.
Okay. And then do you also do I'm gonna imagine, but do you also do no evictions ever?
I've done a few. I've done a few. Yeah, like there's one right now, the one in Detroit that I have. The couple stopped paying, and it's like been a couple months, and uh, we started the process of eviction. But then we get a call like, oh, the wife has been in a accident, and there's going to be a judgment or a payout coming in December. So the lawyer told us, hey, do you want to hold off, and they'll pay you once they get the money. So at this point, it's like, okay, December is only a couple more months, so we'll just wait for the the payoff. Of course, we'll charge like 10% penalty fee for waiting, but the weird thing is like the couple doesn't contact you and tell you, hey, we've been in an accident, and that's the reason why we're not going to pay you until we hear from the lawyer a couple months later. It's really strange how people work.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting scenario. So and also during December though too, because that's like, Christmas time and everything. But
Very
Yeah.
slow. Yeah, very slow.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, like I said, just more kind of curious because I know I've heard, all different types of criteria, like some people will accept uh certain multiples like, 2 or 3 times rent um in terms of like salary, things like that. And
Well,
then
the couple I had were they had two good jobs and they're making over 100,000, and here we are, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and the rent's 1,300. So
wow.
do the calculations on that.
Yeah, it sounds like they are uh spending out of control. But again,
Yeah,
without being able to, judge anybody or anything like that,
I think the ability to pay is not as important as the willingness to pay. You know, I
okay.
would definitely bring in somebody that makes less, but they have a more clean record of payments than somebody that has a higher income, but then it's like it's up and down for them based on the record. I would avoid that.
Gotcha. And I guess that was the whole point behind like the credit, not really credit worthiness, but like essentially just doing the credit check just to see like, hey, this person has, a bunch of, 30-day or 60-day or even charged off accounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Excuse
I mean, a 600 score, they're it's going to be pretty low, 650 if you're lucky. So it's a matter of you figuring out like what type of credit do they actually have. That's kind of like discernment that like your agent would help you out with, or somebody else would help you out with to read that credit report.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. And then I don't want to like keep like belaboring the point, but I did want to kind of see like I know like Ryan, you've got properties over in Gary, and I don't know if it's like exactly the same as it is in Detroit or just similar in terms of like the types of renters that you're seeing, or really kind of like most of the bedroom community type markets. Like, is that something where, it's a little bit more um at your own discretion in terms of like, you hold certain criteria, or do you have just like, these are my, 3 or 4, however many criteria, and I stick to it?
We have a PM, so I'm pretty sure we've just given them our criteria and they stick to it. But yeah, they're pretty good about it.
Okay.
We're waiting for a
What are
couple more
your like
renters right now for our building.
your candidates? What's their credit score usually?
I don't remember the criteria offhand, but I would think something in the low 600s,
Yeah, and
maybe
like
maybe
720.
620, something like that.
So,
Because it is Gary, Indiana, so we've got to allow for a little bit of something.
well, the reason why they have a low credit score is because they're a renter, and if they had a higher score, they would have bought something.
Right.
So they're somehow they're irresponsible. And actually 720 is the median score. So like 600 is way below the 50% mark.
I think,
Yeah, that's a good question though. I'll have to check up on that.
yeah, I hadn't needed to, all of our units were filled. So now that we're going through the process of getting new tenants, I checked in with the one in Wisconsin, the property manager, and they actually had a credit score of 550. But the tenants that they approved for us, one was in the high sixes and one was in the low sevens. And then, like you asked, Chester, they don't want any evictions. They're doing 2 times the rental income. And then they went a little deeper. He was trying to tell me how they do it, but they were researching to make sure there were no violent crimes in the past. No record of any violent crimes in the past. So that's what I learned about the Wisconsin market, and I'll be doing the same thing in St. Louis to see what the criteria is there. Because I know, like you talked about Gary, I know Millennial Mike had talked about that before too, and the same thing Hyder said is, you know, if they had a better credit score, they could buy something, but for the area, most people don't. And I don't remember. I thought, like Ryan said, I thought it was around 6.
Okay, so then it sounds like that's just more a not really market specific, but like just for renters in general, it sounds like you want to come maybe about, I don't know, 10, maybe 20% off of whatever the median or the average is for like the area, or like maybe that's something that the PM or somebody would put together and say, hey, yeah, this is like the average score for the area, and this is like the average credit score for your typical renter, I guess.
Yeah, I think what he had said, Millennial Mike, was because he had a thought in his mind because he was using his Washington data.
Okay.
And so the property manager had to let him know the difference of the 2 areas and why why their criteria was a bit lower. Yeah. So yeah, kind of area specific.
Gotcha. Okay. And again, that was one of those things where I was just like, you know, I would suspect there would be some variation, I guess is the best word, between, from market to market, but I didn't know if it was like, if you're dealing with a renter, in general, you should be expecting, whether it be like 600, 650 range, or, whether it's just like, specifically in Seattle or in Detroit or in Gary,
Yeah.
So, okay. But that's really, really helpful. Because especially as I'm starting to get, the applications in, that's going to be something where I'll be checking and don't want to kind of quote unquote go in blind, or just like, I'll have, I'm sure the recommendations from the PMs, but it's like, I don't want to just go with just like, oh, well, okay, well, they said these guys are good, so let's get them in, and then 3 months later, all right, time to get them out. Like, I don't want to do
Yeah,
like
that
all
brings,
the headaches of the
right.
victims that I'm hearing. I'm just like, oh,
It brings up a good point because for ours, well, in St. Louis, we haven't had to do it anywhere else, but in St. Louis, the city or the county requires to do an occupancy inspection, and they go through and inspect the property, and they check some really weird things. I was going to see if I could bring it up, but the occupancy inspection was set up by our property manager, so they schedule it, they go out and meet the inspector there, and they take photos of anything that he doesn't pass. And that cost us $460 for the property manager to go do that, and I was kind of shocked, but it didn't seem like they spend that much time out there, but it is what it is. And the occupancy inspection is good as long as that tenant is there. So hopefully the tenant's going to stay a while. Otherwise, like you said, if they last a year or whatever, we're going to have to go through the same thing again in a year.
like, I'm gonna be honest, that sounds like a little bit of a money grab on behalf of the whether it's the city or the county, because they're the same, right? It's St. Louis City and St. Louis County.
Yeah, but I don't know which jurisdiction they called for us. Whether it was, I'm going to try to find it real quick.
Yeah, because that sounds like the counties or the whatever jurisdictions. It's like, hey, we need some money. Who can we pull from to see if we can get a few more dollars in the coffers?
Yeah, and it's not, let's see. So some of the things they looked at were address numbers, chimney, driveway, electrical, windows, fences and gates, the foundation, gutters and downspouts, porches, decks and handrails, retaining walls or yard, the roof, the sidewalks, the paint or the siding, the soffit and fascia, of course, bedrooms, closets, doors and locks, exhaust fans, toilet, tub, shower, sink, smoke detectors, tile and grout, walls, floors, ceilings, and we failed because on this house, there's a garage door from the street. There's a garage door under the house for a car to drive into, but the parking space is not separated from like the water heater and the furnace. And so he wants us to either remove the garage door and build a permanent wall so nobody can drive a car in there, because back in the day, there was a safety issue with water heaters because they had, where you light the water heater, it's an open flame. And if the water heater was on the floor, then typically gas fumes, oil fumes, and things like that from a car, they hover around 16 inches off the floor. And that's just was in line with the flame on the water heater, so it could cause an explosion. So we're trying to find out. I don't want to lose the parking space if that's something that's valuable to people in that area. So I'm finding out if we can build walls inside to make it like more like a garage where it's separated from the water heater and that furnace. So, we were on the finishing line. We were getting ready to list this thing, and now that threw another wrench into the plan. So that's probably going to cost us another couple $1,000 to get taken care of. But thankfully, none of our other markets have that requirement of an occupancy inspection.
Yeah, that sounds like, as you were going through that, the first thing I was thinking was like a almost glorified, if you will, home inspection. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
I get it and I understand, from a safety perspective, but like that literally was basically the same criteria, because we didn't have like a garage, but like that's basically the same criteria that the home inspector was looking at when I had applied for it's called like a certificate of compliance in Detroit, which basically it's just the same thing. And then all it is if you can pass a home inspection, then you basically qualify for the certificate of compliance. So that's why I was just like that. Yeah, I don't know if it's just, whether it's St. Louis City or county. My
Yeah.
guess would be the city, but
Yeah. And like you
that's
said,
crazy.
I understand. And it's kind of nice that they're wanting the place to be in nice shape for a renter. I understand that. And that's our goal too, to make it as nice as possible. And he didn't really nick us for any of those small things, but that's a big one. The garage door thing is a big one.
Gotcha. Which, I mean, and it, what is I think was it Dion who had said it yesterday? Yeah, basically death by 1,000 paper cuts, where it's just like, it's no one big thing that will doom. It's just like, just all the little stuff just over and over and over that, yeah, just, yeah, that's crazy.
I just find it's easier for me to just put in my time into IT work and make way more money than having to deal with real estate. But I just do it like on the side. But I try to just minimize my time involved with anything I do with real estate now. So
Yeah.
I feel the same way with the stocks a little bit. So I'm on the fence on whether it's just to put my money in the market and get, 8% on average on that, or find a quote unquote good deal for 6% return and headaches of a tenant.
Yeah. Over the
yeah,
last few weeks, those kinds of thoughts have crossed my mind, but we're going to give it a shot. We're 3.5 years in now, and once we get all these units filled, definitely, because most of them we've done all the big stuff, the roofs, the water heaters, the furnaces, and I think all the big stuff is taken care of. So hopefully we won't have to do it anytime soon, do it over again anytime soon. But yeah, I was thinking kind of the same thing, but I don't think I have that many more years that I can do what I do. I can make pretty good money at it, but it's a bit more labor intensive and things like that. And I'm finding that it's not as easy to do that kind of stuff as it was when I was younger.
More curious than anything, Frank, especially because Zuber talks about it on a regular basis. Have you ever thought about selling or like making the business sellable or saleable? I don't remember sellable, saleable, but making it so that you could sell your business to somebody else, and thinking, along the lines of shoot, what is her name? Cody Sanchez. Yeah. Like, being able to sell businesses and then just use like the windfall from the business to either invest in a few more properties or maybe put into the S&P 500 or something?
Yeah, I don't think my business, you mean my, as a general contractor, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think my business is set up in the way that I could do that because I don't have like a big client list or anything like that that would be valuable to any other contractors. Um, don't have a lot of major tools or anything like that that could transfer over to someone. But yeah, I had wondered about that before, like what, it's not like, for example, if you have a UPS store or a McDonald's or something like that, um, where there's actual
Basically
assets.
something with like a resale value, like,
Yeah,
or okay, I got you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah. And then Mark has a Mark comment, we'll call
Yeah,
it.
of course he does.
I was
You
like,
should maybe thought about transition, Frank, at all?
Transitioning to something like consultation or something.
Yeah, I mean, even I suspect that you could still be PM, like just managing the project, right? And not doing the actual labor of it, but handling a crew. And that can sort of, you're essentially like keep making apprentices, right? Like training apprentices to sort of take over business and potentially have them buy it out or something.
Yeah, there's actually I do have one person that has reached out to me that has a crew, but he has two businesses and he can't really put the time he needs to into the crew, and they're making mistakes and things like that. So he wants someone like me to come in and do, like you just said, manage the project, and I wouldn't have to be doing the physical aspect of it. So we're trying to work out the details with him because one of the issues I see in what he's doing is that all of his labor, they're specifically doing outside projects, and in the wintertime he's fumbling around to keep them busy. Um, and most of the stuff I do is interior, like kitchens and bathrooms and things like that. We do all our own tile work and flooring and paint and all that stuff. So that's a great suggestion, and I think if I can work it out with him, that could be something that could be a possibility.
yeah, something like that where you could try to see about, um, not only being like, PM or foreman, but then also uh like training somebody up to do that as well. So then you don't even have to really bother, like you're saying, like if it's like wintertime, you don't even have to be bothered with, being out
There's
in the.
definitely money to be made there. I pay my property manager to manage my whole construction in Detroit. He gets 10%, and then he finds a good general contractor, and hands off like the whole project to the general contractor. So I'm pretty sure the general contractor is making, I want to say 20%. So my overhead's 30% just to get stuff done, but um, it's gonna be done reliably and I don't have to worry about too much. So
Yeah, that's another good point. I didn't really think about reaching out to other people, other maybe other contractors in the area. That's a good tip. Or property managers in the area that need someone experienced to manage projects. That's great.
oh yeah, I mean honesty is like what's missing in the whole industry.
Hmm.
It's not even about the money. It's like, can you finish the project as you said on time? Can you start and finish on time with that budget without running away with the money?
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there.
And
Any
no
other?
one, no one's doing that type of work. Like project managers, if you have a property and you can fix it up, really fix it up. Like they don't get involved with that. So it's, a lot of property managers can't do that stuff either. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's definitely demand for what you're doing, Frank.
Yeah, and I think a couple of it might even reach out to some local agents too. I know. Uh, Thanks, Santiago, for coming in. Good to see you. Um, so I guess I have a few more leads out there than I was thinking. I'll have to start digging.
You also got to make sure you're working with the right people because they can also screw you.
Mhm.
But either the property manager or the end client.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So I've got a slightly random question. If you're looking at multifamily, let's say multifamily in general, but I was recently looking at a duplex, which is where this came from. So you're looking at multifamily property and you wanted to figure out whether there were separate metered utilities. How would you go about doing that? Would you be looking
I
for physical boxes
yes,
or
I can answer that. Because I do that all the time. Do you know what a service meter looks like? Uh,
uh
so,
kind of is like,
so
well, at least for like the electrical box,
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
the one where it's like
So a good telltale sign is looking outside the property. You'll see what you'll usually have is like, so there's the power line on the streets. That power line will extend to your home and then drop down the side of your home. And on the side of the home, you should see a it's going to go to, well, depends on what it is, especially in a multifamily, it look different. On a standard single family home, you'll see a square box with a little round, what's that thing called? A horn on it. That's your service meter. Now, in a multifamily, um, there's not going to be one of those boxes. There'll be you'll see X amount of squares with round circular horns in the middle of them. So let's say you got a fourplex, you'll either see 4 or 5. You might see 5 on a fourplex because there might be a separate service panel just for like the outdoor and hallway and basement lights. But like if you see a duplex, you only see one service meter. You can assume it's the same electric, but if you see 2 or 3, 2 would mean each unit has its own electric and pays its own utilities. Same thing with a free, it just means there's a common panel which you're going to be paying for.
and that's like for this stuff like the common, like I guess not really, like I'm thinking common area, but like for like external units or things like you were talking about. Is that right?
Yeah,
Like the
anything
outside lights?
anything shared. So here's a good
Okay.
example of it could be outdoor lights, indoor lights in the common hallway. It could be a sump pump in the basement. Yeah, anything that's separated from the units. Now, I own both. I have ones where there's common electric and ones where one of the panels is hooked up to the common lights, but the tenants probably aren't going to notice because, especially if you have LED bulbs, they're not going to notice anything on their electric bill for LED bulbs. So here's a good one. For common electric, I only use like $2 to $3 of electricity per month in one of my units, but I pay $17 to have that connection.
Hold on, make sure I get that right. So you're only paying $2 to $3 per month per unit, but $17.
No. I'm paying $2 to $3 a month for the common electric, meaning I'm paying like $2 to $3
Okay.
a month just to run like a couple of LED lights in the hallway. However, that service to have it, the electric company charges me $17 per month just to have like the service active.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Welcome. I mean, technically, I guess if a tenant found in my city, if a tenant found that out, like if I didn't have common electric between the units and the tenant found out, like I could be, the city could force me to change it. I wouldn't think they wouldn't really fine you per se, but they'd be like, if a tenant really wanted to bitch about like the hallway smoke detectors that probably cost like 40 cents per month to run because they're using like 0.5 like 0.005 milliamps on a 220 volt circuit. So they're using what, like less than a watt out. They're like what, point something watt out, 0.0 something watt hours when like electricity is like 17 cents per kilowatt hour where I am some stupid amount, but I guess it depends. Like if Detroit is like here, like one of my markets, yes, they can make you change if a tenant decides that paying like less than $1 per month to have a hallway light on is too much for them.
that's crazy. Wow.
I wouldn't take too much stock into that, but to answer your main question, that's how you know if utilities are separate. And if they're not separate, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to separate it. I know just because I just did a new service meter for a duplex of mine because one of the units only had a 60 amp service that I'm planning to rent out to college students, which also has an electric hot water tank. So that there was no way in hell that was going to work. They'd be they'd be tripping breakers left and right. So I upgraded it to a 200 amp service, and the difference between a 200 amp and 100 amp service was just like a couple $100. But those service meters ain't cheap. I think for a 2-gang 200 amp service meter, it was like $3,000. So if you have a duplex that only has a single gang service meter, be prepared to pay $3,000 for a 2 amp. And even if you only decide to go to 100 amp, it's only like $300 less. So you're still paying $1,700. Not $1,700, $2,700. Maybe you could get one for $2,500. But it's funny how the amount of gangs you add to a service meter, like it's like exponential growth in the price. Like I remember Matt saying he paid like what, like $15,000 for like an 8-gang like service meter for one of his projects.
What?
Yeah,
What? Holy crap. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there drinking water. I guess I should not have done that.
yeah. So note to anyone who wants to do touch the service meter, get ready to pay for it.
And so that was, and just to double check, that's the all-in amount, like labor and materials, or is that
Oh no,
just
that $3,000 is just for the thing.
Jesus?
So I paid
Wow.
the lowest bid I got was $4,600, and that was a new service meter, just one new panel. I kept an existing panel because I wasn't ready to touch that yet. It was a 200 amp panel. 200 amp panel probably only costs like $600 to $800. And honestly, probably like a day's worth of a master electrician, which was probably like $100. The other thing with, well, particularly with 200 amp service meters, is like that's like 6.2 or 4. That's like 6.3 or 4.3 wire. Like that's very expensive wiring. So when they make the new run, like that's like, God, that's probably like $5 to $7 a foot wire. Whereas like what, 250 feet of like 4.2 Romex is like under 100. It fluctuates, but I'm just gonna call it $100 for like 250 feet. So like for let's just say like 30 cents a foot for like normal wire. The wire they need to run from your the service meter to the panel, that's like $5 to $7 a foot, not 30 cents. So that can get costly, especially if they want you to put the panel in the unit. My suggestion, if you ever had to do that, would be find a way to put that panel directly above that directly like in line with that service meter, so you are not running a line. If it's on the other side of the house, have fun paying for all that. You could, like, if it's on the opposite side of the service meter, you could be paying like over $1,000 just for that wire run. Versus like
That is
maybe
insane.
Yeah, versus like if you only have to do like a 10-foot wire run, you got lucky and you're only paying $50 to $70.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. So then that's one of the considerations, I guess, of like if a property is like already we'll just say, sitting on the market, like let's say like, 150 days, and it's already heavily discounted. That's something where I would still want to come in with a lowball offer, because if there's not separate utilities, that's something that I would also have to factor in.
And it seems like the electricians are like that, and the plumbers are like $300-400 an hour.
No, they shouldn't be. I mean, it's market dependent, but even here in southern New
That's
Hampshire,
usually what I run into. That's what it seems like it is. It's like it's definitely it's super high for whatever they want to do.
Are you hiring companies with painted vans?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
They're usually about that high. They're like 2 to 4. I mean, they're just ridiculously priced. Like I had to run one wire from the panel to the inside, and like they wanted to charge like $400 for it.
Well, okay, that I get that. I mean, that's yeah, that could be possible. I mean, just run a wire, okay? It's like you don't just run wires for one place to another. How far was it? Did they have to cut holes in the wall? How difficult was it to fish through? Because if it was because
I'm just saying it adds up real quick. The electricians add up real quick. That and the plumbing.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying it's like an electrician's probably 100 an hour if you get like just a master on his own. I mean, if you want to
No
go
way. No way. 100 is like the 100 is like for them to like look at something like it's like no
100 per hour, 100 per hour.
no it's 100 like 50 for like 30 minutes 50 minutes or 30 minutes it's more like that.
Uh, no, I can show you a bill
Yeah, but
for
it
my
depends on
electric.
the area. It depends on the area, who you know,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But on the market, it's like 2 to 400 an hour is what I want to say.
Yes, if you hire an electrician company, if you hire a company with multiple employees and painted vans, yes, that is there's an electric company near me that charges like $200 to $400 an hour. Yes, or you
There you
can
go. So, and the thing is, like, they don't even do a proper job either. So
no,
that's the really annoying
or
part about it.
or you can just to get the $100 an hour guy, just find a master electrician who's basically on his own or has one apprentice, and that's where you find the guys only charging about $100.
I can't seem to have them come to the property to give me an estimate.
Well, that's because, well, they might be because they're all busy. It's kind of like Matt said, relationships are the best, and I just happen to have a relationship with an electrician. He doesn't even charge me 100. He charges me 90. Well,
Yeah, so that's
he,
that's atypical though. I'm talking
he,
about for everyone else, like and me, like I don't have those situations.
find one. Start calling around, get to know one, give him some work.
Yeah,
I don't
doing
even
the
know what
try
I'd be
before you
talking about.
buy.
Yeah,
I,
give him a small job. Exactly.
the problem is I don't know anything about electricity, so I don't know what I'm looking for. Like I can't tell a good person from a bad person. So that's the tough part.
Go on YouTube and watch like just a basic 30-minute video. Just get very basic information. I mean,
Yeah, I understand,
are we
but
still
then
recording this?
there's all the codes and everything. It's it's very involved for even simple stuff.
You can look at you can probably just take some time, 30 minutes, to educate yourself on some very basic electrical to just get an idea of what they should do. I mean, I can summarize it very quick. You know, going in and out of an enclosure. Let's start from the panel. Going out of the panel, the wire needs to be stapled 1 foot away from the panel. It has to have a clamp on it. This might depend on jurisdiction. Well, not the 1 foot. In my jurisdiction, they can use the snap-in plastic ones. Some might require the metal ones. I don't know. And then from the panel, every 4 feet, they staple it down. And if it goes into a hole where they're fishing wire through, you need to staple it 1 foot from there. And then once it gets to a receptacle or light switch outlet, have like 6 inches or so of wire coming out of the electrical box, and then just make sure they didn't backstab it. If it's an outlet, make sure they didn't backstab it. Just make sure they have good fish hooks, and that's really it. For very
that's
basic stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that definitely sounds like a good idea to get at least familiar. It's like, perfect case in point, even though not exactly the same with the electrical. The toilet in the house was running for like over a minute every time I'd flush it. Had no idea what I was doing with it. Looked up, went to YouTube University, figured out, how to go and basically change out the is it the flapper valve? Like I can't even remember. Basically like the flushing mechanism,
Yeah,
but that took like. Go ahead.
I think you're right. It is. I think you're right. It is the flapper. I actually don't know much about toilets myself.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I mean, went from, you know, like, what in the world am I doing to, watching a few videos and, about an hour later, completely change the whole thing out. And now takes like, 10, maybe 15 seconds somewhere in there, as opposed to flushing for over a minute.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I knew nothing about electrical, and then, well, I can't say because this is being recorded.
Hopefully nothing where it restarted anything like a heart or a pacemaker or anything like that, unfortunately.
But yeah, I mean, like, even if you don't want to do, this goes for any home, like any improvement you do on your home. It's like you want to know that you're not getting ripped off, and that just having a basic understanding of what needs to, like, what something should look like or how something should be done is probably essential for anything. I mean, this is just me now. I wouldn't do this because I can paint pretty well, but I would fire a painter on the spot if I ever saw a painter using blue tape on anything but the floor. They'd be fired, and I'd say, take 5 seconds to learn how to use an angle brush properly. I'm sure within a minute you could do it properly. And if they can't, they're fired.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it probably took me like 2 minutes to figure out the technique with an angle brush, knowing nothing about painting, and can cut a perfect line without tape.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I've only seen people use tape before.
It is, well, the blue tape industry needs to make money somehow, I guess, and convince people that they're stupid. I mean, really, yes, it's slower like cutting a line, but think about it. It's like, I guarantee you the time it takes me to cut a line using an angle brush, by the time you're done taping all that stuff up, I'm done. I'm done, I just see tape as an absolute waste of time and money. But
I agree.
and I'm not even that, I'm not like a super painter. I'm not, but I've developed a pretty good technique for speed. Do I still make some mistakes and accidentally get a drip on my windowsill when cutting my wall? Yes, but you catch them quick, you rub it off fast, and it's gone.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't use tape. I cut in my lines with the brush.
The only thing I will mask off is flooring when I'm painting baseboard. I will take paper and mask that off. That's the only thing I'll ever take. But when it comes to cutting, cutting door trim and window trim and molding and the top of the baseboard when I'm painting the wall, no. But when I'm painting baseboard, it's just the floor. I don't tape up off the wall afterwards. Again, very easy technique to paint the tops of baseboards without using tape on the wall. I just mask off the floors because I just really don't want to deal with getting paint on floors. That's actually the problem. The problem there is, especially if it's a hardwood floor, if I have to get paint off a hard way, I'm also probably I'm probably taking off poly too, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I'll actually use a 12-inch mud knife and a wet rag. It's got to be a wet rag though.
You know what? I like that you said that. That's actually smart. I could probably do that, but I also cheat. No, I probably could still do that because I was about to say on the baseboard sides, I actually cheat and use a mini roller because speed.
Yeah, I love mini rollers.
well, a foam little roller, but I think that could still actually work even with a knife. I could probably still figure out how to pull that off. Yeah, no, I like that idea. That actually could, I need to try that and see how that turns out. New thing to experiment with. Yeah, just
Yeah,
have like,
the knife it'll get gummed up with paint and everything, but that's what the wet rag is for, to keep it clean so it doesn't transfer to the floor from the knife, because that will
yeah,
happen.
yeah, no, exactly. Have a 12-inch knife and then put a rag. That's actually not a bad idea. I'm always looking for new ideas to paint well but fast. Which is why my painting technique is paint all the trim first and use a mini roller on the majority of it to just get it done fast and not care about getting paint on the wall, because then I go back and cut all my lines.
Yeah, that's exactly how I do it as well.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
Yeah, another thing I do is I use a lot of weenie rollers. I don't use 9-inch rollers hardly ever. A lot of weenie rollers, and I'll dunk straight into the gallon or the 5. Just let it drip off a little bit, kind of shake it off a little bit, and go right to the wall or right even to the ceiling.
Yeah, no. Oh, so you don't use 9-inch rollers on the wall.
No, I do. I still do a weenie roller. I'm just faster with it. I
Oh,
keep it wet. That's the
all right,
absolute key. Keep the roller wet. If you roll it out
sure.
dry, then it won't pick up paint
Well,
anymore and it won't transfer the paint.
well, see, that's part of what I do. It's I use the 9-inch roller, but what I do is my technique is put a stupid amount of paint on the 9-inch roller, roll it
Yeah.
onto the wall, go as far as you can, and then once you hit the limit, back roll to get all the excess off. That way I have a nice, that way, I get as much on the wall as I can, and then I'm not getting any drips after the fact because I did that back roll, and then I make it all look clean and nice, and that's basically how I figured. And I cover the greatest area that way. It's just go fast and back roll.
Yeah, so we basically do the same thing. I just, like Lance Armstrong used a smaller gear when he was racing on bicycles. That's kind of what I do. I just use a smaller weenie roller.
But I do agree with you on smaller like bathrooms and like laundry rooms and stuff. I will use a smaller roller there, but if I have a huge ass living room I need to paint, the other problem with the weenie roller is, especially last time, I was painting wood paneling, so I needed like to get an extra wide roller too to make sure like I could get in the cracks and crevices. I would not be having a fun time on wood paneling with a weenie roller, getting in those cracks.
Yeah, there's things you can do, like using the tip of it, putting it at a 30 or 45-degree angle or something when you're in there.
Yeah, but that then slows me down versus using just a big roller, big wide roller.
Yeah, I think the weenie roller fits my stature better.
Well, we have our different ways of doing things,
Yeah.
I
I do
I'll
a
admit,
lot more reps with the weenie roller. So there's a lot more movement involved.
yeah, sure. I mean, like I said before, part of my technique is speed. I want a good job, but I also want to do it as fast as possible.
Yeah,
So,
my old boss, the guy that taught me most of my construction background, Keith Okonski was his name. He was a painting contractor before he became a general contractor, and he would always say that painting is a controlled run. So like when you have a run that's running down the wall and you got a drip that's running down the wall, you control that, and now you're painting. So
yeah.
you'd always say, get that paint, transfer it to the wall, get it out of that bucket, get it on the wall, get it on the lid or whatever, get it on the material, and move it around.
Yeah, exactly. And the back rolling actually really helps to ensure 100% coverage and make it so I only have to do one coat of paint.
Right. Yeah. Leaving no holidays.
Yeah, just in case when I was like just wildly rowing, even though my roller is loaded and I slap a lot of paint on everything. That one back roll makes sure that, because the roller is still basically, I stop when I see one spot that I visibly see. It's like, all right, I didn't get full coverage. Time to back roll. And then I'm picking up excess paint, and, spots maybe that weren't as visible to me as first are now getting covered with the excess paint from the splat, the original splat.
Right, because there may be a spot that's heavy here and light here, and if I'm rolling through the heavy, I may leave a fat edge where it looks like a roller was just there. So
Yeah.
I want to go over it several times, even just to even things out.
But I usually do get one coat coverage because Matt's right. That Benjamin more Regal Select does a really good job for the most part.
Yes, I agree. I always try to go for one coat coverage, but I'll actually roll the roller over it several times rather than just one back roll.
True.
If need be.
You usually for me, if I do that, there's maybe a couple spots I need to touch up with a mini roller, and then I'm done. Usually. Well, it also depends on what I'm going over. Like, I might do, like, I remember I was a little more meticulous at one point where I was trying to do Matt's Stone Harbor over a dark purple wall, which I was a lot more meticulous about. Somehow I got that in one coat, but that was more of a challenge versus, what I was just doing where I didn't care as much where I was going. I was replacing a light gray with a Stone Harbor, which was an easy one coat coverage, but you're messing with a dark purple, then that's a nice challenge to try to get that in one coat.
Oh man, or reds.
Red. Well, all dark colors, reds. I had a nasty yellow. Well, I
was thinking yellow too.
I had a nasty yellow. God, Matt's right about that too. Who paints their properties yellow? It makes my eyes bleed.
Oh, it's a very cheery color.
Oh, it makes my eyes bleed. seeing, it hurts my eyes. Sorry to change the subject, but Chester, I did want to get back to you because I had more to say about that. The unit, the separation. What is Detroit's utility makeup? Are you guys mostly gas? Do you have gas service in most of the places?
Yeah, it is property dependent, but I'd say like the lion's share of them are gas units.
All right, so I'm gonna give an answer for the main. So here's the question: if heat's separated, if it's electric heat, go based on the number of service meters, like I said before. If it's gas, you should see 4 gas meters outside. Now, I don't know if all gas meters look the same, but they're usually small things like near the ground. They're like gray, like mine outside my house almost kind of look like parking, like just the top part of parking meters almost. You just want to count the number of those for what you're using. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe what that. Well, here's a simpler one. Well, it's actually not so simple, but I doubt you're going to have this level of complexity in Detroit because this really only applies to rural areas. But propane tanks, if there's a building running off propane, you should be able to see the propane tanks outside. I highly doubt anyone in Detroit has the area of the acreage of lots to have a 250 gallon propane tank buried underground. Maybe it could happen, but
Probably not. Yeah,
if
probably not.
that's the case, then there's no way to tell if the utilities are separated from the outside or not. Oil tanks in the basement, you can actually tell. If you look around the property and you see two elongated metal pipes sticking out close to each other, two of those elongated pipes equals one oil tank. They're usually iron pipes. So you're going to be looking for sets of those. So if you have a triplex and you see 3 sets of those pipes, you now confirms you have 3 oil tanks down there. Me personally, oil is nasty, and if gas is there, get rid of oil as fast you can. I don't like discarding heating systems early, but worst case scenario, you could find yourself in hundreds of thousands of dollars EPA cleanup scenario if something goes wrong with that oil tank.
Ooh, yes. What are those? The super fun cleanup sites or whatever they call them?
Essentially, there's going to be a huge excavation if more than 10 gallons of oil leaks.
Jesus.
Yep. There's going to be your rental property is going to be a big excavation site, and the EPA is going to be involved.
Yeah, whenever there are 3-letter agencies involved, like just start adding zeros to whatever the cost is.
Now, not to be light about this, but if for some reason something goes wrong, like what happened in Massachusetts, I wouldn't say recently, but like 5 years ago or something, where like an old gas line just exploded, you're not liable for that. You're liable for the oil tank and what goes wrong in there, though. So, like,
Wow.
if a gas line explodes outside your house, the gas company is responsible for that.
Yeah, that's ironic there was somebody who was here from Baltimore a little bit earlier, because that had happened, like, not in the city, but like one of the suburbs, like I think right outside of Baltimore. There was like a massive like explosion. It was at least all over the news here in the area, but like, yeah, the contractor and the homeowner both had passed away from being like, I think it's ground zero or whatever the center of like where the explosion was. But yeah, yeah.
Oh, I did forget to mention one thing. You can get homeowners insurance to cover oil tank leaks. Just expect to pay a lot more money for the policy.
Yeah,
If you
sounds
want
like that sounds like it's going to be an arm and a leg then.
I think it's like an extra, not necessarily. I mean, it's not like oil tanks leak that much money all the time. It's not a common occurrence for an oil tank to leak that much money. It just can happen, especially if you're not monitoring it. Luckily, all right. So pro tip with oil. Be scared if you see any red spots around your oil tank. If oil leaks, they add an additive to the oil you burn so that it turns red and you can see that it's leaking in residential heating oil. So if you start seeing any red spots around an oil tank when you're doing a home inspection, be afraid.
Gotcha. Definitely valuable to know.
But usually Matt's trick of magnets works, and it's not too expensive. Expect to pay an extra like $100 or $200 a year if you have an oil tank. I mean,
Okay,
it's not bad, but considering like on my properties, I don't know what insurance is like for all of you, but for me, insurance is like going back earlier to my duplex that appraised for $570,000 recently. I'm paying about, was it a hundred, somewhere over $1,200 a year. I'd probably be paying like closer to $1,500 a year if it had oil tanks. So it's all relative. To me, the relative cost compared to that $1,200 is not a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
Yeah,
but
yeah, I
that,
gotta
but
look at it in perspective.
but I also think Detroit's like New Hampshire, and there's no extreme weather events that drive up insurance.
Well, when you say extreme weather events, you're not talking like, blizzards
Fires
or
or
anything like that.
well, blizzards don't cause houses to collapse and be destroyed. I'm talking like wildfires, earthquakes, hurricanes, and flooding and stuff like that. I mean, flooding is also very area dependent, and that's flood insurance. But blizzards, no. We get blizzards all the time, New Hampshire. That's not a thing that destroys houses. It's a thing that destroys power lines, but not houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably more just like the roof construction, I guess.
Actually, what's most likely to destroy a home in terms of weather event is like ice accumulation or large hail.
Really?
Oh yeah. Have a ton of ice. Have like a huge ice accumulation on. Ice is heavier than snow, and it will, because ice is like solid, compact together. Even like packed snow. Snow after a fresh snowfall isn't packed. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking
how
about like a reef breeze. Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, that's also like that also too. Yeah, especially on older homes. So like you get snow and then it rains a lot when there's snow still on your roof. That snow becomes very wet and heavy and collapses your roof. Yeah, exactly. That too.
Okay.
Well, not really reefies, but you get rain and then you get a bunch of snow and then a bunch of rain like a couple of days afterwards, and the snow hasn't had time to melt. That's big trouble.
Got
You could
it.
cave especially if you have a flat roof.
Yeah, and those are usually what I see like more so in the south, like south of I would say probably like starting North Carolina and further south. Like they're more flat because of, you know, uh dealing with like hurricane level winds. But yeah, further north.
I have
Mhm.
that building I was just talking about is a flat roof.
Okay.
Though it was originally a slanted roof, they made it a flat roof so to do things to make it so. I think actually the main reason for that was to give more space in the attic to actually like put a furnace up there for a second unit, because it was definitely originally a single family home that was converted into a duplex. I can just tell by the layout. There's no way that was originally a duplex.
Yeah, so that's one of the things too that I'm looking at. Like on that call with Donato a little bit earlier, we were actually looking at a couple of properties that and I know Santiago already hopped off, but that was one of the things where like there was like basically it was like a 4 or 5 bedroom, and it was like 5 bedroom, 1.5 baths, and it was clear that it was like a single unit, but somehow like they owner or someone had tried to like basically wall off or like basically make it so it's like the upper level was one unit and then the bottom one was one unit. So it was like I think it was like a 3-1 on the top unit and then 2 beds and half a bath on the bottom. So it was like, how in the world do you do this from what looks like it should have been just a single family house? Like, how do you
Well,
transform this into a duplex?
I'll actually give you a really good one that happens a lot in New Hampshire just because of the age. It's not the particular case for that one, but a lot of these places, what it was it was an old single family home built back in the day with a barn, and the barn became part of, and then they converted the barn to livable space, and that simultaneously made it a duplex.
Interesting.
You can just tell by some of the houses like that definitely used to be a attached barn that's now a duplex that was a single family home in a barn. Like my Keene place that was built in 1884. Yeah.
So definitely a level of creativity there.
And it's not the only one I've seen. I've seen a lot. There's a house, 4 houses down the street, the exact same thing.
Wow.
And you can tell we were the first houses built because all the other houses are newer. It's like, yeah, our houses probably owned like basically all the lots of the other houses in the area. And we're like, when the towns were really, really tiny, and, these were like, farmhouses way back in, around the turn of the century when these were like very small, like what you'd call like towns of possibly only like, that's now a town of like 20,000 people, but back in the day in the downtown, that might have only had like 2,000-3,000 people.
Wow. Yeah, that's so. I mean, and that makes sense. You think about it in terms of scale. So,
Well,
okay, that makes sense.
well, it kind of got a lot bigger, and having like a house with a barn like really close to downtown no longer made sense.
Okay.
1884 is a much different time than 2024. Yeah. There was
Yeah, only 140 years. Not too bad.
when that house was built, was electricity even a thing? So like that's like,
No, that's a good point.
did they have to add electrical after the fact that it was built?
I think who's that? Alexander Graham Bell? No. Was it Bell who? I want to say like 18 possibly. It could be like I want to say it was like mid 1800s. Go ahead.
Even if electricity was around back then, it's like was a thing back then in a small dinky town back then. Would they have had electricity anyways? Maybe back in 1880s they had electricity in New York City, but did they have electricity way out in the boondocks?
Yeah, probably not.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
So I could be owning a home that didn't originally come with electricity. We're very interesting to think about.
Yeah. But I mean, definitely, that's definitely interesting. Yeah. Huh. but again, again, that's the whole, um, the entire region, I guess, up there, like, buildings from like, I think, did Matt say he had one from like the late 1700s, like 1790s or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking Dover, New Hampshire is like the fourth oldest city in the entire country. I'm pretty sure like Dover was right after Plymouth.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, yeah, Jamestown, um, down in here in Virginia. Well, not here, but like,
Yes.
Virginia itself. But
Jamestown, was it Jamestown, Roanoke, Plymouth, and then Dover, I think.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to be expected of the fourth oldest settlement in the entire country.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. But yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Matt says it all the time. We have buildings full of surprises and full of lead. I mean, I'm a little nervous because they're actually really coming down hard on the municipalities of New Hampshire. All the cities and towns just had to do a lead survey because New Hampshire is winning the shit lottery recently of getting the EPA's attention of why do so many children have lead poisoning here. So they're forcing like the municipalities around here to like, I think Joe Biden or something did an executive order that's like in 8 years you are going to figure out if you have lead pipes or not, and they will be gone in 8 years. So now like the towns are like in complete scramble mode right now for that stuff.
Wow.
Oh yeah, they're like the cities are going around. It's like, everyone take pictures of your water mains. We just want to make sure there's no lead. It's like they don't know if they still. It's like that just blows my mind. It's like they're like, yeah, we think there's still water mains with lead out that people's water mains in their homes with lead pipes.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That scares the hell out of me with what's going to happen to our property tax and water bills for everywhere.
Yeah, that type of compliance would be, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, especially if you're dealing with like, infrastructure where, it still is functional, but if it's just like, oh well, because it's lead now, yeah, that's crazy.
Well, I mean,
Crazy.
It's one of those things. It's like, how do they know, and how do they know it's a hazard? It's like, well, like the federal government is just assuming there's old lead pipes. Like the answer is nobody knows. So I need to do more research into this, but I'd love to know that
the issue is not the pipes themselves. It's like when they changed the water from to the river, it was a different composition. So I think it had more minerals in it or something like that. So it was actually leaching the lead that was in the pipes.
Sure.
That's why Flint had bad. That's why Flint's water went bad, because they switched the water source from the lake to the river.
Sure, but like I'm still asking the question. It's like, how do they know that children are getting lead poisoning from the water? As far as I know, they just say there's a high number of elevated blood levels in children in New Hampshire.
Right.
Why are we suddenly doing this whole lead pipe experiment? It's like, have they tested water samples, and do they know? Because from the news reports I read about this, that was not part of the conversation. So I'm like, unless you know, why are we like?
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
if they report high lead in the water, then yeah, then it's
Well,
then
but
it's
this is like New Hampshire. It's like there are plenty of places for them to get high lead levels with all the old buildings. It's like, I mean, you could just get it from going outside. How many, when I'm driving by, how many dilapidated buildings do I see just with chipping lead paint that, you know,
right.
that gets blown all over the place by the wind, and you know, who and maybe maybe lead gets in drinking water that way, and I don't know. It's it's just a thing going on where I am, and
It's government bureaucracy that they don't have to have accountability.
oh yeah. Well, what it is the federal government just decided that you're going to get spontaneously decide you're going to get all of your rid of all we're gonna have zero lead pipes in every municipality up here now in 8 years, and you're going to comply, and even the cities and towns are like, we're fucked, we can't do this.
Yeah. And then if the lead levels don't go down in the population, then what?
Oh, then
So,
they're going to come after us. Then they're going to come after us landlords.
so yeah.
Matt is right. You know, we are possibly heading to an extreme reckoning on lead paint, and I am glad I got a lead certificate to actually like do this, to do work involving lead myself.
More curious than anything, how much did that cost, Robert? To like, was it like a
$500, 200 for the course, 300 to register with the EPA. It's good for 5 years.
Okay.
Well, hey, it was great talking to you guys, but it's 12:05 where I am. I need to go. I need to pass out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like,
I have to.
yeah, 7 o'clock will be here before I know it.
We learned quite a bit about painting.
Yeah, definitely valuable stuff. Like
I get to fire painters in the future.
Yeah, the more you know, the better. Yeah, definitely is good stuff.
But I think I would talk to the painter first on the phone and make sure, you know, he's not using the tape.
He doesn't use blue tape.
Wasting his time rather than waste his time and have him come over here.
And his prices would probably be higher because that blue tape is expensive.
Probably.
Yeah, it's like $13 a roll.
You know, I get charged way more than that for labor, so I'm not worried about $13. But okay, I don't know if I can find a painter that uses no tape though.
Oh, well, keep us posted. I appreciate you guys staying so long, but since I don't have any, I still have to go be a contractor tomorrow, so I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Yeah, it definitely was good stuff. Yeah, I'm starting to really fade. So I'm just gonna and hop off, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on Matt's Live.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
All righty, thanks guys.